Aye.
Election or selection of a chair and vice chair. Okay, with those items added, what's the pleasure of the board considering the agenda for tonight?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Yeah, it should have been taking place in our July meeting. Move forward with the 20. Yes, sir. I mean, it's part of, right, that's why we're having to amend the agenda to add those two. Yes, sir. Right, with regard to, I guess, rules, staff, can you advise us on that if we have to consider the items tonight?
No, I don't think there's any rules. I think that's just procedure that we typically do with the meeting after the newly board is elected. But yeah, we can absolutely push that to the next meeting if that's the pleasure of the board.
So then with that, then we can amend or remove those or table those items that we're asking to amend, or we don't even put them on the item, so we can just accept the agenda as is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a motion on the floor yet.
There was a motion and a second
There was a motion and a second to,
to accept the amended agenda.
okay.
That's the question.
Question was now, do we approve? So then we vote on that and
Yeah, yeah, your vote's gonna be now to, there's a motion and a second on the table for
the amended
approval of the agenda with the amendment that of the vote of chair and vice chair tonight, correct?
right, so then those.
Could I, who seconded the motion to add?
There wasn't a second.
Okay.
Mr. Kane, I don't think there
Okay.
was.
Okay.
So you could retract or do whatever and.
If there's no second, the motion dies.
All right, so having not received a second, we will receive, now consider the agenda as printed and sent to you. What is the pleasure of the board? Get a second? Okay, moved and properly second to approve the agenda for August 19th as submitted. All those in favor, use your voting sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, likewise. Okay. Next item is approval of minutes for May 20th and June 17th, Planning and Zoning Board. These items are in the printed packet before you, and you should have received those in the invite and invitation, the remind us of the meeting. Having a chance to review those minutes, what is the pleasure of the board? We're on both. We have a second for the approval of the minutes for May 20th and June 17th.
A second.
All right. Been moved and properly second. All those in favor, use your voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, use likewise. All right, next, new business, Mill Street Towns preliminary plat. Staff.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Board. Good to see everybody tonight. We have a submission for a project called Mill Street Towns. It's a preliminary plat that we are going to be reviewing tonight. The applicant on Mill Street Town's preliminary plat is Rivers and Associates. This site is located between Highway 11 and Mill Street, just south of the 11 at Main townhome development that you've probably seen developed over the past couple of years. I have supplied a paper copy of this plat in front of 3 paper copies if you can share. I do have one extra up here if anybody would like an extra. This one has a lot of details on it, so I just wanted you guys to have it in front of you as well. Really, you're probably going to be looking on the page 3 that I've turned to, which is the actual kind of layout and preliminary plat of the proposal. This is an 11.52 acre site that is zoned multifamily residential. This was approved in September of 2021, the rezoning to multifamily residential. With a multifamily residential product, it is a special use within the multifamily residential district. Thus, they had to take the proposal to the Board of Adjustment for special use permit approval. They were approved for a townhome or single-family attached development in March of 2022 for a special use development up to 138 units. Tonight, we are looking at a 93-unit single-family attached product, so it's well within the amount approved by the Board of Adjustment. They are proposing 2 driveway accesses, one on Mill Street and one connecting to Highway 11, as we will see right here in a second. You've actually probably seen the turning lane on Highway 11 beginning the development. This will also serve 11 at Main just to the north as well. And the Highway 11 connection will be constructed and operational prior to phase 2 of this development. I'll explain that a little bit more in depth as we get to that section. So as we see right here, these are the 2 parcels that we are referencing. So again, just south of the constructed or in the works 11 at Main townhome development. This is the townhome development proposed today. On these 2 parcels just south, again, between Highway 11 and Mill Street. Does anybody have any questions about location? Again, this is a zoomed in kind of image of it with the entire site. This is the front page of the Mill Street Town's preliminary plat. It lays out some of the design of the street, a 60-foot right-of-way, and the number of units, things like that. We really get into the bulk of the project. This is the existing conditions plan of the site. This, again, is really the page that you're probably most interested in, the layout of the site. Again, it's going to be 93 single-family attached developments. What we mean by single-family attached, what changes a single-family attached to a multifamily product is single-family attached can be owned by the individual who is living in it. It's going to be parceled out separately, so not one single parcel in which all of the buildings are on. It's going to be on its own parcel, have its own parking, own setbacks, things like that. It is attached. Where the attached portion of the building is requires a firewall and some other building code changes that are different between a multifamily development and a single family attached. This development will have an interconnection just to the north at 11 at Main, where they will also have the turn lane onto Highway 11 as well, which is being constructed at the moment. They have the property connected to the south as well for future development and interconnectivity. And then it also connects to Mill Street, which will likely be the kind of the main entrance on this side as well. This is another image of the preliminary plat showing lots. This is mostly kind of showing the layout of the lots and location, things like that. This is a drainage and grading plan that will be reviewed a lot more in depth during the construction period too. So after this, of course, for those of you who may be new or interested, we typically start a subdivision off with a preliminary plat like this. Next, it would be construction drawings. Finally, a final plat that would be taken to council that would mirror essentially this preliminary plat. As with any development nowadays, we require if a subdivision has more than 30 lots, then it have two separate and constructed access points. This product is proposing a two-phase product in which the first phase will have 28 units. By the time they get to the second phase, it will exceed that 30-unit development requirement. So they will actually be, it's expected that this development will, of the turn lane onto this site will be finalized by then, but if it's not, then stipulation of the second phase of this is that this has to be in operation and completed. That note is on the plat as well. I've highlighted it. Staff does recommend the approval of Mill Street Towns. The Technical Review Committee, which is made up of all of town development staff as well as DOT and GUC and other development members in the area, have reviewed this. After several reviews and revisions, the presented preliminary plat was approved by the Technical Review Committee and is in compliance with town standards for this type of development. The town staff does recommend approval of Mill Street Towns as it does meet the standards and ordinances of the town for a single-family attached development. Does anybody have any questions?
I just kind of want to be clear of what we're looking at. So
Absolutely.
I see that there are multiple buildings with, I guess, A through G. So you're saying that a single family could own A all the way through there?
That's correct. So A, I could own. B may be owned by another individual. So, and that's what makes it, again, a single-family attached rather than a multifamily. Multifamily, this would be all one single lot in which everything's kind of shared. Single-family attached is very similar to a single-family detached, a general neighborhood where the houses are not touching. Legally, in which they own their own lot, they would own, their townhouse as well. And it's built to single-family standards as well. Thank you.
Could you go back to the aerial?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to see how that Millstream Way lines up with the lot to the south.
It will be going just kind of to the north of this lot.
Just for future
Or
development?
to the, I guess that's actually west of this lot. Yes, for future development. And actually, the preliminary plat to the south kind of reflects that as well. There's a preliminary plat already recorded for this lot down here, and it kind of mirrors that, the road coming in.
David,
Yes, sir.
could you help me understand what a type A buffer is?
Yeah, so a type A buffer, there are multiple different buffers based on land use class. So a single family residential is a land use class of 1, meaning it's the lowest intensity land use in the town of Winterville. The next intensity is a land use code of 2, which is multifamily is a land use code of 2. Going through the buffer yard table, you would take the land use code of 1, up against the land use code of 2, and it would tell you that it's an A buffer yard. An A buffer yard is the smallest buffer yard that the town has, which requires a minimum of a 10-foot width in the buffer yard, and it specifies the number of evergreen, large trees, small trees, and shrubs that must go within that buffer yard. So with this development, anything that abuts a single-family detached product requires a buffer yard. So there will be a buffer yard of A in this case, adjacent to these structures to help create a, as said, a buffer.
Reason I ask, we had an omission on Ann Street when that subdivision going south on Ann, there was a subdivision off to the left. There should have been a berm, and it got omitted at that time and was overlooked by error. And I'm wondering if there should be a berm here. Does that include a berm, an earthen berm?
There is a berm as well. It would not be between the two properties, but it's along the thoroughfares. So there's a berm shown along, let's see. If you are on C201, which is the third sheet,
C201.
yeah, you might want to look at actually the plat itself. It's so much easier. To the just north of on the Mill Street entrance, just north, you see a 20-foot non-access easement and berm reflected there.
Mm-hmm.
So that will go from the most northern portion of this down past that entrance. And then if you look in the southernmost portion, I'm going to point it out on the screen right here. So it is shown, there's a note right here that says 20-foot access and berm. And then in the southern portion, there's a berm as well called out down here.
So we're berming the street? We're putting a berm to
Adjacent.
shelter the street?
Yes, adjacent to the street.
Or is that to prevent noise from the street going to the house?
So our ordinance requires anytime there is a double frontage road or a road that is on the corner, in this situation, that there is a berm against the road. So I guess essentially it's for aesthetics as well as noise. But there is also a berm along Highway 11 too, because that's a double frontage street, so our ordinance requires a berm there as well.
So what you're saying is the existing house that's right next to the entrance off Mill Street, and the 3 parcels that are Luther Caraway's will not have an earthen berm between the townhomes and their property.
That's correct. They have buffer yards.
Pardon me?
Let's hold off on talk. We will invite them up in a little bit here for questions as well.
That's my concern. If I owned that property and lived in that house, I sure would want a berm behind my house with all these houses being built behind me. I think it's something we should consider as a board, requiring a berm there to protect these homeowners. But I'll wait.
Anybody have any other questions?
I do. So speaking of homeowner, it looks like those 3 parcels are owned by the same person, if I'm not mistaken.
So there are, this right here is 3 parcels in which 1 home is on. There's also a house right here just north of it as well. So there are 2 houses, 2 single-family residential homes right there beside it.
Have we heard anything from them?
I have been in contact with this owner since the beginning of it. It was actually part of this development
Right, yeah.
from the
so-
beginning.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
And when she was purchasing it, when she had it under contract, she came in and was asking me about it. And we had this under review at the time, and she's seen it.
Yeah, okay,
They
She's
were
what?
also here during the
Mhm.
rezoning request.
Right.
that She and her husband. Any other questions for staff? We invite our the developers and or their representative.
Thank you.
to address the board.
First, let me clarify.
Introduce yourself to the board.
Kenneth Smith, I am the developer and owner. This is not a rental. These are for sale. We saw the need in this town for a more cost-effective, single-family ownership, not a $350,000, $400,000 house that most people can't afford. So this is going to have a garage. It's a single family. It's going to be kept up because these people own this property. It's not going to be like a bunch of rental houses. So, and I think this is something the town needs. We've spent over a year with the town back and forth designing this and making changes to meet the code. And we've, so far as I know, met every requirement we're supposed to meet. Any questions you might have for me?
Representative.
And I have, also my engineers are here as well, so technical questions, they can answer.
I still go back to the idea of the privacy berm between the subdivision and this existing house.
What is required? I'm speaking up,
So a berm, which is designed at, it's called Buffer Yard A. I can get the exact. It's essentially, I think, 3 large evergreen trees per 100 linear foot, small trees and shrubs. We can get the exact number if the board is curious of that right now, though.
So let me ask one question. Would anything that would stop us from putting the berm there, I heard you say drainage, but is that a sheet flow drainage, or can we put a berm there? Oh, so he didn't want the berm.
I mean, if we put a berm there, that would block his drainage. So I wouldn't recommend it.
And Luther, I've known for quite a while, and I've talked with him. He's been aware of this from day one. I've worked with him. We moved lines, and so he is very, very, very aware of this. The other house I owned, remodeled it completely, top to bottom, and that lady bought it. And when I showed it to her, I showed her the plans. She's very aware of it. I'm very conscious of my neighbors, and I am a great neighbor. So we're gonna make Luther happy, whatever it takes. So if I can do shrubbery or a short berm or whatever we can work, I want to make him happy.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Are either one of them here tonight?
Beg your pardon?
Either one of those?
No, they're not. No, and that should contest. That's right. All right.
And just to give you the information, so a type A buffer yard is a 10-foot wide buffer yard, 3 large evergreen trees, 4 small evergreen trees, and 16 evergreen shrubs per 100 linear foot. The idea of a buffer yard is that you're creating a visual barrier that is at least 12 foot in height within the first 5 years, and helps to create that buffer.
And I guess also, board, we have to keep in mind, this is a preliminary plat, and that there may be additional changes and revisions that will come back to us for a final plat. Am I correct?
Yes, but essentially this is how it's expected to be developed, and the final plat should be pretty much mirroring this. proposal. So the preliminary plat is just kind of the idea of exactly how they're going to design it. The construction drawings is kind of a little bit more into the weeds of how deep the pipe will go and how it'll, you know, size of it, things like that in the ground. Absolutely.
So the square footage looks to be between 1,500 and 1,700 square foot per house. Looking at this document here, if that's the case, what does the breakdown look like? Is that 2 bedrooms, 1 bath? How
I'm
does
not
that-
sure this would reflect square footage of the homes.
Okay. So could you tell me what that square footage looks like? How much? Okay. Okay. You have a potential?
And for those who are on the web, listening digitally, remotely, the applicant said between 1,500 and
Right.
15 and 1,800, depending on the location of it, and whether it's on the end or within there as well.
And what's the average price range? Okay. Mhm.
Do you mind coming up here and speaking? Just, thank you.
I'm gonna flip a coin and say somewhere in the 180 to 250 range. Depends on what's, you know, what niceties are added to it.
Okay.
But this is gonna be, you know, much cheaper than your single 1,500 square foot individual house. And this is what we thought there was a need in the town, is for affordable housing, but nice housing. Walking distance of downtown, shopping downtown, close to, assume the park's coming. So it's kind of perfect fit for this type.
Any average size of each yard, or are there any yards?
No, so it's gonna be all like basically a communal, all the other area will be HOA owned, so you'll have access to all the pond and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, the walking areas and that kind of stuff. So it'll be access to everybody.
Gotcha. Okay, so a community area, like, but no yard in front of your house?
Yes, you'll have yard in the
Okay,
front and back.
okay,
Mhm.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I want to go back to the privacy between the areas. What is planned between your subdivision and 11 and Main? There's a long strip there where they're back to back. What's going there? To divide it?
So are we referring to, let's see, this piece right here?
No. We're 11 and Main back way up at the top.
Are we talking, okay, but so between these two?
Yes.
That will just be essentially setbacks, rear yard setbacks.
That meets all the code.
It does 11 at,
Doesn't meet all the code. This is a big thing for me, because we screwed up over here on this subdivision. I don't want us to make an error here.
yes, this whole, for it to come before you and for us to say TRC has approved it, we have reviewed everything. Now, I understand that you're asking, have we missed anything? But yes, right here, it meets setback, rear yard setbacks. Is that your question? I'm a little confused. I'm sorry.
That's my question.
Yes.
The division between Main and Mill and this subdivision, does it meet the code, or is there something that has to be done to it?
No, this proposal meets our, the standards of the subdivision and zoning ordinance, yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for staff and/or the developers? Okay, there being none, what is the pleasure of the board regarding the preliminary plat that is before us for Mills Street Town? I have a motion to recommend to the town council to approve the preliminary plat. We have a second. And we have a second. Having time to consider, all those in favor, use your voting sign of aye. Any opposed, use the like sign. Have that. Next item, staff report.
All right. And finally, I'll just kind of give a little brief overview of the projects that the town is reviewing right now. We have a ton of projects that are under review or under construction, mostly residential. Cornerstone is adding 11 lots. Villa Grande is adding 40 lots. These are all under construction as we speak. 11 at Main will be adding roughly 60 more lots. And then under review by our technical review committee, we have Blueberry, which is a 69 lot subdivision. Carroll Crossing will be adding 23 more units. Southbrook will be, is under construction drawing review for 122 single-family detached and 56 single-family attached. Separately, Southbrook Phase 2, that was Phase 1. Phase 2 is adding 335 single-family detached, 98 single-family attached. Quail Trace will be adding 85 lots. Brookstone will be adding 49 lots. Farmstead will be adding 179 lots. Mill Street Towns will be adding, as we reviewed tonight, if approved, will be adding 93 lots. Cornerstone, it does have a final plat under review right now. We've got a couple of commercial projects that we are looking at, we're reviewing the Creekside Park, which is a 3,000 square foot building on Reedy Branch Road. It's a commercial building on Reedy Branch Road. We have a 44,000 square foot warehouse and storage facility off of Reedy Branch Road as well. That's just in front of Sarah Law Complex. Lowe's Foods, Tristan behind me is working very hard to help fill Lowe's Foods. And just to introduce her, Tristan is our new economic development planner for the town of Winterville. Very happy to have her. She spent about 5 years at ECU doing small business administration kind of assistance, and so it's really great to have her on board with us. Got a very unique background, especially compared to other staff members, so it's really cool to have her perspective here. Separately, across the street, you may have seen Railroad Cigar has closed. We are trying our best to bring something to the downtown. We hate seeing anything open and available in our downtown especially. And then Pitt Community College is adding roughly a 30,000 square foot welding building that's supposed to be absolutely state-of-the-art for welding. I think robots and things like that is going to be incredible. So got a ton going on in the town right now. Lots of interest, lots of development. If anybody has any questions, certainly let me know.
You talk about that, and I know infrastructure is always going to be one of those things that is a hiccup, and I see where, you know, they were going to widen the street. Now they put the always stops there on Vernon White. So is DOT still moving forward with that, or is, you know?
It's still an approved and funded project. They did push it back to 2026 now to, as they stated, review the design, I think, of the proposal again. I think you're right that the utilities are probably one of the biggest kind of reviews that they're doing right now, is trying to understand where they can push the utilities that are adjacent to the road right now inward. So that's pushed the project back a little bit. Yeah. I don't know, do you know that off the top of your head? We try our best to stay out of the numbers. For one, they change all the time, so it's impossible to keep up with it. For two, we've kind of found that there's a lot of businesses that have kind of said, well, yeah, we're interested, but what do you care about the price? You know what I mean? So we try to, as the government, just kind of say, look, we'd love to have you if this is something that would work for you. Yes, sir.
Is there anything planned over there?
Is there any movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been an approved, obviously Lowe's Foods. We have received a application for a nail spa in there. What other applications have we received? We have received a restaurant called Burrito Shack within that area as well. Any other? Have they applied? A med spa has applied for a zoning compliance in that location too. There's some other rumblings and rumors, but we haven't received any applications other than those.
Are you, I guess this is a random question, are you offering any incentives for maybe local businesses that maybe are already in Greenville and maybe have like the creamery? I mean, I'm just thinking of local businesses, or do you just kind of just offer them the opportunity?
Yeah, we just reach out and kind of show them the space. Right now, there are extremely, extremely few spaces in Winterville, so we thought it was actually gonna take off a little bit faster than this, but it is a new development, and I think sometimes that brings a little bit of a shock value of cost. So, yeah.
Well, and too, in that area, I mean, it looks better being developed than, than the vacant field or empty field that was there for many years. But parking and that infrastructure is still gonna be something, just Chick-fil-A alone, they've seemed to figure out how to get their folks in and out, but that's still a tight little area for the volume of traffic that happens there.
There's a lot going on that little area, for sure, and more to come, too. So.
Any comments from board members? All right. There being none, we entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved in proper second. All those in favor, use your voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All those in approval, you're welcome to stay. We stand adjourned.
You're welcome to stay.